Hey guys, it's Ken here, and we're on the Real Estate Strategies podcast, and this is Kelly Johnson. So Kelly's in charge of all our marketing. She's the director of marketing for MC companies. She's got lots of websites and lots of people that she's responsible for. Her job is to drive revenue to the properties, period. It's to keep occupancy high, keep income high, and so that we have enough money to give to our investors. So obviously the investors invest, but if the properties aren't full, they don't get money as a return on their investment. It's really that simple. So her job is very, very, very important. We meet every week, every Tuesday in a meeting. We go over all the marketing efforts. And so I wanted her to be on the show today to talk a little bit about websites, because this is one of those things. I've been so frustrated with websites. I don't know how many I've made, how many I've paid for. Like, I just blows my mind. Like, I hired a web developer in Chicago that I thought that ended up being in like the Ukraine, they had like a Chicago address. I've paid like a local kid. I've done like all over the map, and there's all these things and all these buzzwords around websites. And it is your corporate brochure, So I've made so many mistakes. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on websites that I don't even use anymore. And so what's the right way to properly, advertise, promote what you have via website? Is it to connect them? Do you recommend one for each property? Are there multiples? Or, as you know, even when you came here, we had a very different philosophy that you have now changed, which I agree with. So what's the right way? Just how can we help people not spend as much money? And what are the right questions to ask for these website developers that, they seem to be everywhere. My LinkedIn goes crazy, like people are boom, 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 SEO website. I think I get 2 or 3 a day.
Yeah.
How do you know, like, where do you go? What do you do?
Well, those are all really good questions, and I think there isn't anybody who hasn't had that experience. So you're in good company if that makes you feel any better.
It doesn't actually.
I bet.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it doesn't make me feel any better. When you think about, somebody asking you should they develop a website, there's a couple questions you want to ask yourself. So let's say one of our customers, somebody watching this podcast or listening to this podcast is saying, do I need a website? I would ask them, what would the benefit be? Where would you see some benefit? So for example, if you had 3 properties that all have 12 apartments per property, and you feel like the ability for you to communicate what you need to communicate to your customer really gets tamped down by having a website. So, for example, if they're able to email you from the website, you can control the communication coming through. If you're doing a lot of this yourself, from a rental perspective, let's say you don't have a vacancy in this property, but you do in another one, and you would like to see if you could potentially drive that customer to the location that does have something available. I could see where that would be a benefit.
That's a good point. Yeah. So let's talk about that customer. You should be able to put all that together for just a few $100s a month, right?
Less.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Because you don't want to spend, when you're talking about that scale, you should be able to build a website very simply. You don't need a lot of information on it.
How much?
Maybe $1,500.
Total. Okay.
And if you're really savvy, here's the problem.
I know people have done it though. They go get a template online, and they pay X to like a domain like GoDaddy or something, and it could be a lot less.
Yes. So my recommend would be, first of all, figure out what you want to name your properties. What do you pick a name for your company? Pick something that is going to be unique, but memorable, because if you want that brand to grow, it has to be something that sticks. So as soon as you figured out what you want to name your company, go buy that domain name as soon as possible. Go to GoDaddy or Network Solutions. It's probably going to be about $50.
And you can go on there and check right away for free. You just go on there and put that name in, and it'll tell you if it's .com, .eu, .co, .biz, or whatever it is. You can check, right?
And you should Google it on many different search platforms. Go on Bing, go on Google, go on Safari, and Google the name that you want to pick and see who you're competing against.
So you're really talking about actually developing a brand.
Correct.
Right. So start with the brand in mind, right? And then build because most of the people that are listening here, a lot of them are buying multiple properties. Some of them are syndicating. Some of them are, assembling things. And what you're saying is there needs to be a bigger picture that all of this kind of attaches to, right?
Yeah. So begin with the end in mind. If your goal ultimately is to buy enough real estate that you would hire a property management company, maybe building a website isn't the smartest idea for you. But if you figure you're going to be doing it in this capacity, like we said, with a handful of properties, and you're going to be doing it for, say, 5-10 years, absolutely brand yourself and get control over that.
I've seen a lot of those little companies. Like I just got back from a ski trip and, I went on to this, company that had multiple properties on there and I could click through it and kind of take a look at what they offered. And it was on a short-term basis, however, but same concept, right?
Yeah. And to really be frugal about your spending dollars when you're building a website, pick something simple. Maybe partner with somebody and be very, very clear that if I'm spending $1,500 on my website, it can't have a lot of coding in it. That's where we get into trouble because the people that are coming after us on LinkedIn and Upwork and all those places, they know that coding isn't necessarily our specialty. And so can you teach yourself?
Oh, is that what it is?
Oh, yeah. So if something breaks...
It's like a different language.
It's totally different language. One I do not speak.
So I don't either. That's what killed me each time. It's like, oh yeah, we need to do it this way. And then what happened was there was nobody that could figure it out.
Right.
Nobody that knew it.
Right.
It's like a special coding language. And we found one guy in Phoenix.
Right.
And he was charging us like, I can't even remember, like 150 an hour.
Right. And he could because your hands were tied. Because
it's like, well, we just need to change. Like, I want to move the button that, the login button. Well, okay, that's 300.
Yeah.
Like I was like, what?
300 if you're lucky. So the other thing too is that if it's very simple, it's less likely that there's going to be a lot of coding in it. So you can drive the traffic. If it's what we're talking about, 3 to 5 properties in the same city, drive the traffic through an email communication through.
Okay.
Then it's going to cost you about $50 a month just for hosting the website, which will allow you to have that email communication. Try to add photos to the website. Not a lot of complicated links. And here's why links are really important. And this is why you and I, angst over website cost. Google is constantly going through every website all of the time. That's what they do. And they're looking for broken links. So if you ever type something in and it said 404 error, yeah, that's really bad. And so if you get a 404 error on your own website, it's a 4-alarm crisis, which means we have to get that link fixed right away because Google sees that broken link and says, I don't want to put that in front of any customer who's looking for this. So that's why if you want to start out small. Don't put a lot of linking in it. Don't make it complicated. Do it more as a way to expose your brand. And then as you build your company, then you can make your website a little more complicated like ours.
That's a good point. It's interesting. If you're trying to attract employees or you're trying to attract renters or you're trying to attract investors or you're even lenders, they all go, like you look at our website, it used to be, more of an ego thing, right? Now it's, you have to have it. They go on there and they look at the deals you've done, all that stuff. It's, right?
Right.
It's very much changed. It's a tool for a lot of things. So we drive philanthropy through ours. We drive our investors through ours. Most of the people, believe it or not, that look at our website today are not residents.
Right. They're not.
That might surprise you guys. Our MC company's website, I can't remember what the percentage is. You told me once. It's very low. In other words, it's not really a website for renters. It's a website for people looking to do business with you, right?
Yes. They're looking to work here. They're looking to invest here. And then, there is some rental traffic, but most of our websites, we're driving about 60,000 unique views to our websites combined And so they're typing in that direct.
Right.
So it makes you feel like, okay, you don't necessarily need a mothership like we have, but that mothership captures so much traffic from people who are just interested in MC companies. That's our brand. And so
do you suggest then that we keep marketing and do promo to the brand and then disseminate to the properties? Because I know a lot of what happens when you start, you have one and then you have two and then you have three and then you have four and then you have 5, 6, whatever. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like I got a real company here with multiple assets. So are you saying at that point you should dump them all into something, do some kind of a brand, create one identity, and then let that brand overtake? Is that kind of the model?
So I think that's what most people do. When you look at like a Gray Star or some of those other bigger companies, they're trying to build that one brand, and then they have standalone websites that are usually managed by somebody else.
Okay.
So they require money. You have to juice those. So a G5 or Elise Labs, where you're paying for that SEO strategy on an individual basis. What we did 5 years ago, is create those regional websites that house our individual properties. And it's harder. You need a team like ours to manage those websites. You're managing 12 different websites that help all of those, 10,000 apartments. So it's a little more effort, but it's more cost effective for us.
Right.
So,
right.
but the mothership, the brand, the MC companies, they feed back and forth. So when you're on one of our regional websites, with all of that content marketing that we've put on that website, between the social media that helps juice that, we do all the blogging, so 200 blogs per website, so that juices that. So they feed each other. So if somebody who's living in Tucson, looking for an apartment in Tucson, having that website cater to that Tucson customer is actually great. But a lot of customers are interested in what else you have.
Sure.
And who you're about, and are you really a professional management company?
Right. So if you're using a professional management company, let's say you just put together the cash, you own an apartment building, you're the general partner or maybe even a limited partner, you should be looking at these things.
Oh, correct.
So where exactly do they show up in the management company that you're paying, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's another thing, so not all management companies and not all investment management companies are the same, in the way that they advertise. And so, something that as simple as that might not be even on their website.
Right.
Right.
Right. And so when I got here, my goal was to take a company with 10,000 units and make it look like it's 100,000, because ultimately, that's where we're going, and we want the customer to understand that this isn't a small management company. We're doing things aggressively to beat out those big companies. I know that if you put our people in front of, I won't name names, but some of those bigger companies, I know we can go head to head from a marketing perspective. I know we can go head to head with a management perspective. And so I think that your digital footprint should instill confidence in people. It's really important. So
let's say you're involved in a property, or you're just an investor. Like, what could you do? Like, what are the questions you would ask a property manager or somebody that's handling a general partner handling your property?
So let me see if I understand the question correctly. But am I buying real estate and giving it to them and saying,
yes.
"Oh, you're going to manage this for me"? So I would be really interested in how I'm going to show up. I want to know. So I'm going to join your company. You're managing, say, 50 other properties. Where am I going to show up? What are you going to do to set me apart? And are you going to take care of my asset in the same capacity that you're taking care of the other assets?
Right.
What's your marketing plan for mine? What are my thresholds that I should be able to expect? What kind of reporting are you going to give me? From a marketing perspective, I want to know that my property is going to be cared for in the same way. So if I go to your website and it's all beautiful and all of your properties look great, what are you going to do for mine?
Right.
I think I would be very interested in that.
It needs to be consistent with the rest and or promoted correctly.
You want to make sure that you aren't a subset of the bigger picture.
Right, which happens.
It does.
Yeah. By the way, what that means is you go to a home page and then there's click, click, and you can get way down the line,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I worked for a company one time where we had owner managed and fee managed. And there was always this, well, it was spoken, so it wasn't an unspoken philosophy, but no, that's owner managed. They get priority of your time. They get priority of your resources. And you just want to make sure that that's not going to happen. And so you need to be educated to ask the right questions.
Now, what if you just have one house? You know, I know, you know, obviously you're not going to need a website for that, but there are tons of options right now. We talked a little bit about this in, you know, some of the other videos we've done with you, the Marketing 101 videos. There's these new home platforms are popping up, Realtor, Zillow, right? They're all starting to pop up, and they want your rentals, right, for free.
They do. They'll
Right?
do it for free.
So
Yep.
what's the best way, you know, because like a lot of the, you know, some people start small, right? They get one condo or one house or, you know, whatever it is. What are some of the resources that they might have to get on a website?
So if they have one house, I would definitely, I would take control of that myself, I think, because there are a lot of avenues you could choose, but when you can control the environment, then you're more likely to put your best foot forward. So for example, Craigslist. You get to control how that looks. You get to control how many times it's posted. You get to control the verbiage.
Right.
You get to control the overall impression that the customer is going to see. That would be my advice, to make sure that it's controllable first. Because while Zillow will do it for you for free, there's a lot of competition in that, and you could become a dot on a map really quickly. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you don't necessarily have full control over it.
Here's another interesting point I just thought of when you were saying that. You know, like let's say if you're managing it yourself, that's an easy decision, right? Let's go try all of these different things that are free. But if you hire a property manager, like a small, local, single-family property manager, you got to know that they may or may not be marketing savvy.
Right.
Right? Like, in other words, they can collect rent and they can manage a vendor, the landscaper or maintenance person, or kind of handle your tenants' needs. That's what a property manager does. But not all property managers are good at marketing.
Right.
Right?
Right. It depends on their experience level. So, you know, you and I are probably the worst people to have a realtor sell our house, right?
Oh, I
We're
know.
going to be like, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it all wrong.
Oh, my gosh.
And so,
So true.
that's why as an investor, it's really important to educate yourself. It's not stuff that you have to do, but there are questions you need to be able to ask. And so when you put your income in somebody else's hands to manage it, you really want to educate yourself so that you can say, where are you on this?
Right.
Where are you on that? Did you
Right.
claim our Google listing? Did you do all of these things? Because it's important. It drives income.
It really, really does. So it doesn't matter if you own one property or you're syndicating and buying lots of big ones. You know, this topic of, you know, the website, the placement, being on somebody else's website, how much you pay is super important, because you can go down a rabbit hole and spend thousands and thousands of dollars. Don't make the mistake that I've made. You know, I've easily spent over $100,000 in websites that don't even exist anymore, making lots and lots and lots of mistakes. So, Kelly, thank you.
You're welcome.
Always
Thanks for having
great
me.
having you on the show.
It's been fun.
I appreciate it.